Oh, Restream have upgraded their interface. Interesting.
Have they? I don't use Restream.
I have. Well, you do, just not directly.
No, I don't. You do. I don't. This does. I don't.
Exactly. Well, that's a bit incorrect there, but okay.
No, it's not incorrect. For my stuff, I don't use Restream. I use a multicasting thing. No, this is irrelevant because this is your shit.
No, I'm just streaming what I'm saying. That's not what I said. No.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I say that's bollocks.
Will you please let me just say what I was about to say? Restream has got it titled as 24-hour round nerds, and it isn't 24-hour round nerds.
Hey?
That is what I was saying. But it's okay because it's overwritten by YouTube and Twitch. So it's fine.
Wait, what? Why does it think it's the 24-hour?
I don't know. But it doesn't matter because it's overwritten by YouTube and Twitch, so it's fine.
That's weird. But yeah, I don't use Restream.
No.
This is your thing. Although, in fairness, the one that I use, the service I use, isn't that much better, to be honest with you.
It works.
Sometimes.
To be fair to Restream, Touchwood hasn't failed doing this yet.
Hang on. Guitar. Done.
I've just got a worktop next to me. Go on, Suffolk Ram.
Scazius.
Welcome to episode 214 of the Rand Nerds podcast.
It is.
It is.
I panicked.
Did you?
Mate, I honestly panicked. I was like, did I send Ram the last podcast? When was games night? When did we last podcast? Oh my god.
Games night was like nearly 10 days ago. It doesn't seem that long ago.
No, but I had a mini seizure. I was like, on Wednesday, I was like, shit, it's a games night. Have I got anything to do tonight?
Yes, so did I. I was like, hang on a second. I thought, no, we did that last week. But it seemed like I did it yesterday. That doesn't make sense.
It's Zaber's fault.
So, it is Zaber's fault. He messed it all up.
And you're going to mess it up next week.
I am going to mess it up next week. So it's all fair in the world and all good in the world. What is exciting is Zaber this basically we can just go straight into games we've been playing.
Yeah, it's the only game I've been playing.
Yeah, and amazingly, Zaber has been kicking and screaming. He's not really been dragged kicking and screaming. A game he said he would never play. He's playing.
Go on.
So we this is a bit of a revisit. Because we'd asked us like 2013, 2014.
Long time ago. 2014. It was 2014.
Yeah. We have been playing, and we played it for giggle. We played it for giggle on a games night. Euro Truck Simulator 2.
Great game.
It is absolutely fantastic game.
It shouldn't be a great game.
It really shouldn't. If you describe to anybody what the game is, well, you have a truck and you just drive down the road, obeying this. Where needed, obeying the laws, so you don't get fined. Or if you don't care, just go for it.
And they do fine you a lot.
They do fine you a lot. Obeying the laws and picking up and moving trailers from one place to another and just driving around Europe. Euro Truck Simulator 2. That is it. That is the whole game. And you get eventually you earn money, which allows you to buy depots, which you can then expand and so forth and what have you, and get drivers and so forth. But predominantly, it's just driving about.
Yep.
And it has no right to be as fun as it is.
It's true.
To be as enjoyable as it is. It's fun enough. It's fun enough when you're by yourself. But when you've got some mates in the world, mate, and you get to sort of round them off the road, it's great fun.
Oh, mate. That's it's a corker. My group say it's got the Virtua Tennis seal of approval. And someone's going to say, what's that? Virtua Tennis is another game that has no right to be as fun as it is. No one enjoys playing tennis. The only reason people watch tennis, ladies tennis, is because it's as close to porn as you're going to get on daytime TV, right? But Virtua Tennis, the game, is... I don't know why it's fun. Because it's tennis. But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's tennis. And Euro Truck is not tennis. It's trucking.
But I can't... You're right. I can't nothing I can put down and explain. I can't explain why.
None of us
can't.
can.
No,
none of us.
What makes it so engaging?
What's weird is, so a couple of people in my group are like, yeah, I don't like driving. Don't like driving. I'd never drive in VR. It seems really stupid. I'd never drive in VR. And then just one night, I put on Euro Truck after we did games night. So I thought, that was strangely fun. Like, I was still pissing myself after your turn in.
I think that's just to highlight how much fun we were having. Normally, games night, I normally aim to be between 1.5 to 2 hours because it means I've not got a huge amount of editing to do. I started playing Euro Truck. I look at it and think, what time is it? We've been on nearly 3 hours when I had to say, right, we probably better call to close because otherwise this is going to be a nightmare. But that's it. We just completely lost track of time. I think at one point, like literally, I thought we'd been in there 10 minutes. It cost me in 45 minutes already.
That's about right. That is about right. So I should note actually that there is no. You can't have a quick mission, a quickie in Euro Truck. You can't. Buildings are expensive. Trucks are expensive. Fines are expensive.
That's why you make sure you never get them, Scars, and drive like goody two-shoes like me, who never makes a mistake or does anything bad.
No, never. Oh, mate, I can take this at 40, he said.
If I did have a little trailer, well, I would have made it.
That was so good. I can take it, but no.
Then about 20 minutes later, I did it again.
But I didn't get to see that one, but it was hilarious because we're turning off of a motorway. And Ram's like, yep, got it. I can usually take this at 40, he says. I'm like, oh, Ram. I was getting really excited, right? Because I hadn't seen Ram slow down in his truck once.
Time is money. Time is money, Scaz.
He's right. And he was like, see, you had to drive from where? Because I started in Felixstowe, right? And I took a job up in Scotland.
I was in Dover, and you were in Felixstowe, and we had to sort of like try and meet together. And I can't remember we did that. We did quite a few jobs actually that night.
Sure. You went bombing. I saw you kind of like bombing down the dual carriageway the other way. Because you were taking your own truck. So when you're in your own truck and you take a job, you're given an allotted time. In your own truck, you have to drive your truck to the location, hitch up, and then go. But if you use their truck, you fast travel to where you need to be and you're already hitched up and off you go.
Yeah, so you basically got two types of jobs. You've got quick jobs, which is says where you're hired as a driver, and that's your one go. Or you have freight market, which is where you basically pick a job and so forth. You say you've got to drive and get there.
And even quick jobs, you have to drive if you take your own truck.
They usually come with freight jobs, though. Normally, quick jobs should be the ones where you get.
No, you get the option. You get the option. So if you buy your own truck, it will say, "Do you want to take your own truck?"
Must have changed because it used to be that quick jobs were always teleported to.
Oh, sure.
That's what freight was from.
So they must
have changed it.
When I played online with some of my group, they were selecting the quick job, and they tallied in. And because I was in my truck, I joined their quick job, but I still had to drive to go and hitch up.
Oh, okay.
But if I selected that I wanted to use the company truck, then I would teleport to the depot and...
That's functionality of the multiplayer then.
Sure.
In single player, it doesn't work like that.
Fair enough.
So that's more functional multiplayer. Because basically how it works in multiplayer Euro Truck is that you basically join a player's, for air quotes, world, because it's our world, and you join their sort of world, so and you become in. So Scars have basically got defaulted to 0.
My save disappeared, which was devastating.
So he came in at level 1 and had basically no truck at all, and I was like, I'm level 20, nearly 21 now, and have a truck that I spent an awful lot of money upgrading. Basically, I spent far too much money upgrading my truck and not actually, building a business, which is what you're meant to do. Because I was like, oh, shiny, make it black, yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I want a new engine.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because you see, if I take the restrictor off my truck, I've had up to like 140.
Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah.
You got the Volvo with a 750 brake horsepower engine in it.
Yes, yeah.
Sounds
Beautiful
about right.
Volvo.
That can now what about? You can probably do about 120 with a 20-ton load on the back.
Yeah, easy. I love my Volvo.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah. But yeah. So, but it's just, it's just amazing.
It shouldn't be fun because, like I say, I see Ram bombing down the road, and like I said, I'd never seen Ram slow down, not once. He's indicating and stuff, but I don't see Ram slow down. Okay.
My indicators are more like I am coming across.
You would get out of my way. You're warning people, and if they don't get out of the way, they're done.
Yeah.
So he's like, right, we're gonna turn off to go down to wherever. I think we might have been going to like the tunnel or whatever to go over to France.
We were heading towards Calais.
And
Dover, sorry.
Ram flicks the old indicator. He's like, yep, I can take this at 40 as he goes for the exit. He goes for the exit, and all of a sudden, his truck just clips the side, goes, and just falls over. And his truck is just laying there. Blocking the exit. I'm just sat there behind him in stitches going, I can't go anywhere. He's just stuck there. We're stuck. I can't go. And there's Ram going like stoic, like serious, like not even like laughing. He's just like, yeah, I think I've had an accident. I was like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that, mate.
Look, it's typical British understatement. I think my first result was, oh dear.
He cocked up.
That's almost the same reaction I had when I accidentally left my trailer in American Truck Simulator, where I accidentally left my trailer behind.
I've seen people do that.
American Truck Simulator, I was doing a job and I had a bit of an incident.
Yes.
And as I drove, I bounced around a little bit and sort of got back on the road. So I ended up driving off. And as I was driving off, I noticed this little mark had appeared on the map. I thought, that's a bit weird. I wonder what that means. I eventually get to the place where I need to go, start trying to reverse in. And as I'm reversing in, I'm sort of turning in. I reverse my train always.
Mm.
I'm reversing in. I'm looking over my shoulder, like, where's the trailer? I think, why haven't I seen the trailer yet? Then I go into chase cam mode, and I haven't got a trailer on anymore.
Whoops.
It disconnected itself when I was being bounced around. I left it like 100 miles away, so I had to drive back and get it.
They're probably thinking, what's this guy want? What do you mean he wants? Like, where do you want me to put it? And they're like, put what?
Yeah.
We've had that. Me, Jet, and Divine trying to pull out of a quarry. So Divine starts this job, and we've got to take some crap from a quarry to wherever. And Divine has already got out, because obviously he starts there, so we can just instantly accelerate and go. And I start like trying to find my way out of the quarry, and all of a sudden, something's gone wrong. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "My trailer's come off." I'm like, "What?" He said, "My trailer. I've disconnected my trailer. How do I reconnect my trailer?" I was like, "I don't know." I don't know. What are you asking me for? I was like, "You played it before." I was like, "No, I ain't got a clue, mate." So I'm bombing it out of this quarry. And I swear, if he hadn't told me, man, I would have just piled clean into the back of this trailer that he'd left at the exit of the quarry. And then Jet comes flying up behind me, and all we can see is Divine trying to drive around to get to this trailer. It's lethal. So, what's the button? It's like, I don't know. And it turns out that when you're playing keyboard and mouse, the parking brake and no, it was on pad. If you're playing on pad, your parking brake and unhitch your trailer is the same button.
Is it?
Yeah. I think it's context sensitive because we haven't quite figured out how to make that not a thing. So sometimes your parking brake gets applied when you load it back into a game or whatever. And it's like, well, how do I get the parking brake off without touching the keyboard? Because if you're in VR, and not disconnect the trailer. I think it was like Jet was like sat there for like 5 minutes. Well, it might have been Zaber trying to figure out how to get his trailer attached again. As it's just left it.
Yeah. You see, I can't comment on this because I play on a steering wheel. This is how obsessed I got with Euro Truck Simulator. I bought a Logitech G27 steering wheel, which at the time was £300.
Mm-hmm.
Most people buy it for like a racing game. I bought it specifically for Euro Truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I've obviously configure controls and that. So I have no idea what the hitch button, because on my one it's the button number 4 on the next to the gear stick.
Mm-hmm.
I have no.
Oh, because yours is one of the older ones with the actual buttons by the gear stick as well, isn't it? Whereas the newer ones are more like racing setup, so the shifter is separate and it is just literally a shifter, no buttons.
All right, okay. So on mine, what I've got, you've got the shifter, 6 gears in reverse, and then on the same panel as the shifter, I've got a total of 8 buttons and a D-pad.
Right.
Then the steering wheel has 6 buttons and then 2 paddles for your, which in a racing game would use for sequential shifting. I use for indicators, and I have the clutch, brake, and accelerator.
Yeah. See, now, yeah, that's the one I remember. That's the older one.
Yeah, this is old. I bought this must be getting towards 10 years old.
Yeah. So on any of the new Logitech shifters, you know where you've got literally the bit where you bracket it to your desk and the shift.
Yeah.
There are no buttons and there is no D-pad. Like, it just ends at the shifter. It is just a clean shifter. So for me, all I've got is, because I bought a wheel in that as well. I bought the 920, I think it is, the Xbox version. So I've got the wheel, the pedals, the shifter, but the shifter has no extra stuff. It's all on wheel or nothing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought a wheel to eventually play Euro Truck. I bought mine a couple of years ago, actually, 2020, partway through 2020, because I thought I was going to get into Elite Dangerous, and that I was going to get back into Elite Dangerous, and jump into racing games and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to finally buy a wheel, and I bought it, and then never. So my desk is really thick, so you can't actually bracket a wheel to my desk. So I was actually tempted this month, because I've got back into Euro Truck, to buy a stand to put the wheel and the pedal on to play. So you were saying about you bought a wheel to play Euro Truck. This is how
I got with it. Yeah. Because before that I've been playing on mouse and keyboard, and it just doesn't work.
No, doesn't feel right, does it?
Doesn't feel right at all. The main issue is you've got no analog control.
So you're full pelt or nothing.
Yeah. So, okay, cruise control, great. Chuck cruise control on there. So that becomes, but you use it an awful lot when you're doing mouse and keyboard, because it's the only way to, otherwise you're constantly finger off, finger on, finger off, finger on. And the same goes true of when you want to reverse in somewhere, because it's just, there is no sort of finesse. So the wheel is the first step to making your Euro Truck experience great.
Yeah.
It just makes reversing so much easier. It makes accelerating. Now, I also play, obviously, when you have mouse and keyboard, I played with automatic gearbox.
Yeah.
Manual would just be insanity. I deliberately play with manual gearbox. Even though it's a lot more of a pain in the arse, I like to have the truck I drive only comes in automatic. But you can choose a manual gearbox regardless on that. Yeah. You can have a manual.
It's an option in game, isn't it? Rather than
well, they're based on the truck. Yeah. So you can drive a truck that's a manual and automatic. Doesn't matter. It's whatever's easiest for you. And you can also because trucks have splitters. They have 12 gears. You can also customize what version of splitter you got. So my one goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But you can have it where it goes 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And then the second version is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, which apparently is more accurate to how they actually are on actual trucks. Because I think on an actual truck, your splitter is on the actual gear stick.
Yeah.
So when you go into first, and then you hit your splitter, and then you're on second, and then you go into third splitter, and so forth.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, trying to, shifting 12 gears would be, well, I mean, driving a truck is pretty exhausting anyway.
Yeah.
That just makes it a bit, I would imagine, a bit easier.
Yeah, I see a lot of lorries in my day-to-day life. Nowadays, they're all automatic.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I really didn't know that.
Yeah, I've not seen a manual truck in a long, long time, because they're all also very rare, because they're all fairly new. because they do so many miles, you very rare, at least from the big haulage companies, you very rarely see one that's more than 5 years old.
Oh, right.
They're all very new. I'm sure they exist out there, but I suspect that a lot of them get sold to other countries where they're not so worried.
Yeah, sure. I get it.
I'm sure there are some hanging around, but I definitely all the big hauliers, you often see them with new trucks because they can easily, in a space of like, I was talking to one driver and he says he does best part of 250,000 miles.
Well, yeah,
Like
I mean, I would very much believe it. Of course.
Yeah.
Like even if you're driving in Euro truck, I think I've done 2.5K on just like one job. And you got to think that to some drivers, that's an every job groove, you know.
Yeah.
They're driving all day, every day.
Yeah.
Their truck is their home, so yeah, they wear and tear is totally going to be a thing.
Yeah, and they're amazing things, the trucks, because they don't need anywhere near the servicing a car does. They're engineered to go tens of thousands of miles, whereas a car is servicing after a year or 10,000 miles. They go tens of thousands of miles.
Well, yeah, because it's a little putt-putt, really, isn't it? And you're literally razzing the shite out of it, a car.
Yeah.
Whereas a truck's just kind of low thumping, because it is designed to pull a fuck ton of weight.
Yeah, and the power band is also really narrow on a truck. So a car, your power band, if you're a diesel car, is from sort of like 1,100 up to about 4,000 revs if you want to. Whereas a truck, you very rarely go above 2,500.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you wouldn't. That's sort of like you're redlining at that point there. So you change through gears really quickly. I mean, in my Volvo in game, I would have to change gear nearly every second putting away.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, I don't if I'm just in my if I'm I don't want the proper name. Like if I'm naked, I haven't got a trailer on the back. I could pull away in 7th gear, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
Which is what I tend to do when you got a trailer on, though. Particularly if it's a heavy trailer, or as I had today, a tandem trailer, which was very fun.
Those are awkward.
Yeah, every time you get to a turn and go, I've got to turn right here. Oh, I've got to take this really wide.
Yeah.
You just sit there, you're staring in your mirror thinking, please don't hit anything. Please don't hit anything. Please don't
I hate it when
anything.
you're in a foreign country and you've got a really narrow corner to make or a really narrow turn to get off of a road and you're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to make this without clipping that sign.
The first time I took my tandem out, I took it across the road and blocked 4 lanes of the road.
I'm proud of you.
Because it was a red light, so I had to stop at the red light, and it's like I just looked. I thought I've blocked every lane of this road.
Oops.
Marvelous. So
it's interesting, like because we're saying just random things that we do in the game, but again, we still can't quite figure out why it's fun. Because as I say, my lot have said they would never play a driving game, especially not like something like Euro Truck, where all you are doing is just driving back. It's not like it's racing or anything like that. It's just driving. Oh, I'd never play a driving simulator or a sim of any kind, really. And I stream it, and they're like, "You're never gonna guess, mate, what I've gone and done." I was like, "What? Bought Euro Truck? Ah. I thought you'd never play a game like this." Yeah, well, I saw you playing and it seemed strangely fun. Seemed relaxing. I was like, oh, well, it can be, until you're caught in traffic.
Yeah. Case in point, Zaber. I aged ago suggested Euro Truck as a game.
Yep.
And Zaber was like, nah, I'm not playing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get that. These sort of sim games are very much you have to like them or you don't. And I'm very much the sort of sad, lonely individual who likes these sort of games. But then, what happened to Zaber?
So, well, that's the trick, man, because Zaber was another one of those people. So I've sold 6 to 10 copies of this game in the last week.
Mate, you should set your own CDs keys company.
Oh, mate, I wish. Don't talk to me about CD keys. Don't talk to me about CD keys. We're not friends anymore, are we, CD keys? No, we're not. Bastards. Anyway. Yeah, I was streaming and some just a handful of people. So I randomly got a text message from my mate DeWald, and he shows me that he's bought Euro Truck on Steam, and I'm like, what the fuck is he bought Euro Truck for? Okay, Divine. He messaged me, tells me, oh yeah, man, I've got Euro Truck. My mate Annie, he messaged me, oh yeah, man, I've got Euro Truck. Okay. Jet, yep, got Euro Truck. And as I say, then Zaber messages me one evening, or he asked me, on stream when I'm there with I'm on stream with Divine and Jet. So, what do you guys think? That's good. More fun than it should be. We don't know why. It's the virtual tennis of of driving games, And yeah, he picked it up. He's picked up a bunch of DLCs. He'll only play it in VR, mind.
Yeah, I get. Oh well, yeah, we'll come on to VR.
And he picked it up. And a couple nights ago, we got into a convoy and we had a right old fucking laugh because a job in Euro Truck can take hours, literally hours. You don't just start a game of Euro Truck and go, yeah, I'm only going to play for half hour.
Yeah.
Like a job, I think my longest job has taken about 3.5 hours real time.
Yeah.
To get done.
I think Euro Trucks, particularly multiplayer, sits the same way that how a lot of Korean MMOs are basically just grind fests. You don't really, and you can almost switch off while you're playing them.
Yeah.
But what they're really there is a social experience. You and your mates come online in the VR chat. You're all in the game. You're all doing your own sort of thing, or perhaps going together and grinding stuff together. You're not really doing anything particularly engaging, but you're just you're hanging out, and it's something to do while you're hanging out.
Yes.
Euro Truck, I think, hits the same thing because most of the time you're sat on a motorway and you're not really having to concentrate too much.
No.
You don't have to really sort of think about too much what you're doing. But when you're chatting and discussing and stuff, or if you're playing by yourself, I like to put a podcast on or something, or an audiobook on.
Yeah.
While I'm playing. It's something to do while you're. It's an excuse to have a hangout with your mates.
Yeah, and that's what we did because we found that it was really nice just to, we could be in a call on Discord and we'd be doing nothing, right? Just sat there talking, or we could be sat there talking and driving across Europe, realistically being terrorists across Europe, terrorizing the European motorways.
Yeah.
And like Divine will be listening to his tunes. If I'm streaming it, or up until recently, if I was streaming it, I wouldn't be able to have music on. But I've now since set it up so that I can mute my audio, my music to the stream, so I could be thrashing down the road listening to tunes, and the stream hears effectively nothing. Just me and the engine and all that. So now I've finally started listening to tunes as well, or an audiobook or whatever. And just chatting shit. Just all of us just chatting shit, driving down the road, faster than we probably should be. Oh, look, there's a police officer, just nudge him out of the way.
Now, police, I'm sure when I played Euro Truck, the police weren't a thing. There's definitely there are things that they've been updated. Again, it should be worth noting that the CSC, the developers,
or something like that,
yeah, something like that. They have very much still support Euro Truck. They're still making DLC for. They're
DLCs
still releasing
out
pages.
soon.
Yeah, they are still. I mean, I just bought DLC. I mean, it's all like sim level of cost now for buy all the DLC in Euro Truck, but you have to buy it. Doesn't matter.
I didn't think it was that bad, to be honest with you. I really don't. Like
about,
£15 per map or map pack.
But there's a lot of backpacks, though, aren't there? There's about 8 or 9.
No, there's only 7. There's only 7 DLCs available total.
No, there's loads more than that.
No, because then you're talking about skin packs, accessory packs.
That's DLC, isn't it?
No, but they're not. They don't realistically do anything to the game. They just change the way your truck looks. They fall into the area of cosmetics, whereas if you're talking map packs, the map pack expands where you can drive.
Yes.
If you wanted to buy all of the DLC, there's hundreds of DLCs that effectively do fucking nothing. Because you can get a lot of it for free on the workshop. However, or something equivalent for free on the workshop. However, as far as map packs, there aren't that many. There aren't that many at all. In fact, because Euro Truck is one of the last games that I played, DLCs for Euro Truck, I own 10 of them. And let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are map packs.
Well, 6 or 7 is what I said, so there you go. Yeah, but even the base game's got a lot in it to do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They also add in the map packs. Also add in like different cargo types as well. They add in a lot more than just maps. They are worth. Well, if you've got like most of Map Explore, they are worth having.
Of course.
Yes. They are. I'm not besmirching them as a fee. They are good, but it is, if you want to buy everything, it is expensive. It's not. Unless you go on sale. Sale is probably the best time to buy your stuff on this.
I mean, it should be said though, look, if you're going to get into it and buy everything, then yeah, you are talking it's expensive. But considering we've had the game since 2014, well, I've had the game since 2014.
Yeah.
So buying a map pack, every couple of years.
Oh yeah, if you've been playing, if you've been playing, that in that situation it's fine. That's different to no other sort of game. But if you're what I'm saying is, if you're buying the game fresh, don't necessarily bother buying the map packs like the first when you first start. You don't need to buy them as and when you can unlock stuff. If there's a particular area of Europe you want to explore, then fair enough. But there's no necessity to buy them right from the start. You're not going to really lose out on anything major by not having them.
You want to play the Truckers MP mod.
The Truckers MP mod, that's the
Truckers multiplayer.
Oh right.
So there is an online mod where so a convoy, standard Euro Truck, is 8 players. Truckers MP is thousands of players per server. And to do that, everyone has to be equal footing. You have to have all the map packs. Yeah. And then they have stuff like Pro Mod where certain things, like certain UI elements, don't function in the game. So you don't have like the certain overlays and stuff don't appear in that. You have to actually read signs, have a truck with a GPS in it, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, realistically, even with just the base game, and I'm surprised actually there are 7 DLCs. I don't remember there being 7 DLCs or map pack DLCs. There's going to be another one, isn't there, soon?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
The base game will last you hours and hours and hours because, as I say, one job can take upwards of 3.5 hours. So if you come out of this not knowing, like buying the base game, and then going, I don't know, I think I'm still on the fence. Maybe I need to buy some DLC. You'll know just playing the base game if you actually like Euro Truck. If you don't like it, you'll bounce off it pretty quickly.
Yeah, don't rush out then. Buy it with all its DLC. Buy the base game and get a taste for it. It's not a game that none of DLC, unless you play that mod, none of DLC is essential right from the start. You get everything. I think they've added more in, as I don't remember being so many what they call road events where you come across stuff on the road. I mean, I drove past one today. It made me do a double take. I saw a lorry lost its load, and its load was a fighter jet.
Oh, there you go.
Just strewn across the road. It's like, oh.
Seen any of the trailers on fire yet?
Not those yet, no.
I've seen I've seen a car on fire. I've seen a trailer on fire. There was a weird one where an air ambulance was called out.
Yeah.
So an entire motorway was closed off. I'm bombing it down the road, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't go here, and there's fire engines everywhere, and a helicopter was just in the middle of the motorway, rotors spinning, ready to go, and I was like, holy shit, someone's got hurt here. You can find like car crashes and police stops and that.
Which ironically makes the game feel alive. Oh, Yeah, no, that's something that I'm sure wasn't in the base game when it originally came
See,
out. They
I
just
don't
said they added
remember.
this.
Because it's been a long time since I last played.
Because back when I first played it, I basically played it a lot when I got it back in like 2014. I was a couple of years old then.
Mm-hmm.
I played an awful lot, and then I didn't actually touch it again until we played it last week.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed. There's a lot of stuff that's changed. The AI seems a bit more smarter, and the road uses AI.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do remember someone flashing me out once on the old one, but I think there might have been a bit of it thinking I was coming at them rather than they actually flashing me out. But
All right.
a lot more stuff. There's definitely a lot more. The world feels a lot more alive than it did. So they've definitely added a lot of shit. So I can't fault them for the fact the support they've put into it and the community they've built
Oh yeah,
up.
for sure.
They've really gone for it. And it is really it's a great game. I think it's also now worth mentioning if a steering wheel was the first thing to enhance your Euro Truck experience, the next thing is VR.
Mate, night and day.
It is. So if you ain't got VR, if you want a mouse and keyboard, it's actually not too bad because the mouse is your look, so you can look round. So when you get to a junction, you want to look left or right or roundabout, whatever. Mouse is fine. If you use I'm sure it probably works better on a pad because you'll have I presume there's an analog. I've never played it with a pad.
Yeah.
I'm seeing one analog stick just like is like your head look like in a first person shooter type thing.
Yeah.
On a steering wheel, you don't have you don't have those controls. So in my case, if I want to look left and right, I'd have to use the mouse, or I've got a D-pad set up to look left and right.
Yeah.
But because the way where my gear stick is, I basically need like a third hand to do it.
Yeah.
So when I get to a junction, I basically just don't bother. when I'm just using it on like non-VR mode, I just don't bother.
Oh, I'm like that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. In VR, it's easy because your head just moves around the cab. You can just look left, right, easy. You can look at your mirrors as you're changing lane.
Yep.
And it's just so simple, and you do find yourself just driving like a proper car. It just pushes that next level.
Yes.
Of playing the game.
As you say, but just looking around, it's so cumbersome. With a mouse or with a control pad or with a wheel, you just don't do it.
You just rely on the other cars stopping.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did because I was like, I can't reliably recenter, and I'm spending more time faffing around recentering my view. I mean, there was a button for it, but I was spending before I figured out there was a button for it. I was spending more time faffing around trying to get my view where I kind of wanted it to be, so I could see the speedo and all this other stuff. I was just like, I'm just not going to fucking bother. I'm just going to get my view where I want it to be, and then just fucking bomb it and go. Yeah. But as soon as I'm in VR, I'm leaning forwards, looking out of the window for checking on the trailer and checking to see if someone's bombing it up the motorway themselves. You can look around inside the cab. The funny thing is, a lot of stuff in the Euro Truck cabs are actually interactive as well. So like the GPS can be interacted with and all that kind of stuff. It's a completely different experience. You play it completely differently.
Yeah. It finishes it, basically. In my opinion, it finishes it.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. And we were discussing our podcast why it's like works so well. And I was thinking about VR today and VR in general. And I think the trouble with most VR games, if it's let's say it's a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
You're in an environment and you can see the environment, you can see the other side of the room and so forth. But the whole time you're in that environment, you know that your actual physical environment isn't that size.
Yeah.
If you're I'm talking about stand-up mode here.
Sure.
At some point you've got to be careful. You're constantly thinking, where am I in my room?
Yes.
I know I've got guardian or whatever. Where am I in my room? And so there's a disconnect between the world you can see and the world you actually inhabit.
Yes.
When you play a game like Euro Truck, your world is your cab.
Yes.
And so, yes, you're in a big, open, massive world, but like in the real life, when you're in a car, your world is the cab you're sat in or the driver's seat you're sat in.
Yes.
And because the cab's up the store, your VR is now got the same area to play in. So you aren't worried about hitting a guardian. You're not caring. You're not thinking constantly, where am I? Is my PC over there? Am I going to smash my head into my PC? You don't worry about that because you know you're not going to. And that makes it a seamless. It's why it also works in like Elite Dangerous. It makes it a seamless experience. So your VR world now matches your physical world.
Yes.
And that's why I think Flight Simulator, Elite Dangerous, Euro Truck, all work so well in VR because it matches up. Whereas standing in games, any game which is like first where you have to move around, so particularly if you have to move around separately, there's always a permanent disconnect between you and what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And that's where, until we can all afford to have a warehouse to play VR in for our first-person shooters, or whatever your game you're playing in first person to wander around, and it's all fully wireless, that's where you go. Oh, obviously, if you've got, what's it called? It's fine. It's wireless anyway. But you're always going to have that issue.
Yes.
And that's why I think it works so well.
Really, I mean, I find most VR games are terrible when it comes to immersion. I know people will argue with me. They'll jump up and down, shout and scream. That's not true. Pick something up in VR. Tell me that feels natural. If you tell me that feels natural, you are full of shit. If your brain doesn't immediately disconnect the moment you try to lift something up in VR, you are built for VR. Right? Because every time I try to pick up an object, I'm like, oh, I'm squeezing a trigger, and my head goes, this isn't how I pick things up in real life.
No.
In Boneworks has really nice gunplay. But there's a lot of stuff where you have to jump and climb and lift things up and stuff. Every time I have to pick up a heavy object, my character struggles, but there's nothing there. And it's a massive disconnect for me to like, well, why can't I move it? Because that doesn't actually seem that heavy.
There's no real feedback.
Yeah.
When you pick something, I mean, obviously, in my case, playing VR, I've got a steering wheel in front of me now. So it's fantastic feedback all the time, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, your hand controller can vibrate. But what you almost want is your VR, your first person, your VR rig, say. Oh, that's a stupid thing to say, first person VR rig. Your upstanding VR game where you're picking stuff up and so forth. Rather than actually having controls, what you really want is almost like a suit with a load of servos and wires and motors in it. And as you try and pick something up, it basically puts a brake on you.
Yeah.
To stop you. Or if, say, you pick up something heavy, the motors basically put resistance to you lifting something up to simulate the effect of it being heavy.
Yes.
Which is mega complicated, would be a nightmare to find too, and would be very, very expensive to do.
Yes.
And to buy and to own and so forth. Whereas when you're in a cab, especially if you've got the peripheral that goes with it, it's just natural. It feels natural. You forget you're in a cab.
Yeah. You see a wheel in front of you. You're holding a wheel in front of you. In most other VR applications, I know that there are people out there who have they have the ability for phantom touch, so they can feel people touching them in VR, but they have to be looking at a mirror in VR to get the tingles. Well, you don't need any of that for most other stuff. And most other games, that's not even going to be a thing. You get shot in the face in VR, that's nothing to you. You lift something heavy in VR, it's nothing to you. Moving
to add
around.
to add into my suit in that situation, what I then fit to is a small electric fence energizer to it, and if you get shot, zap you.
Yep. In fairness, mate, I'd be crazy enough to want that wired up just to be, because, like I say, that's one of the environment is one of the things I really struggle with when it comes to VR and immersion. I know I'm in a game. I know I'm wearing this clunky ass headset. It's heavy. It's uncomfortable. It's great. The gunplay is great. Woohoo, fantastic. But I can't feel the gun. When I'm reloading the gun, I often say click my hands against the sticks or whatever. It doesn't feel right. Whereas a simulator, you might have a HOTAS, hands on throttle and stick.
Yeah.
So something like Elite Dangerous, you might not have all of the buttons there, but you're going to have a load of buttons that you can toggle and fiddle with and all that. Ram, you went out and bought a fucking Warthog.
And Elite Dangerous's controllers are based on the Warthog.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically look the same.
Yep. So to you, what you see in game is what you feel. You get that extra immersion. You actually get physical contact. Your brain is going, I've got hold of that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can feel that.
Yeah.
That's not something you get in other VR games. Let's be fair. Thinking back all the way to the DK2, the development kit 2, what were the things that everyone played in VR?
Well, there was a lot of like people did do a lot. There was a lot of sit down simulators, where where like where you were sat down type situations. There's a lot of, they did try and do a lot of shooters at first. That was like the natural place to go at first. I mean, the first 2 games came free of the original Rift was all shooters. Apart from
but then that is the original Rift. Before the Rift, the granddaddies of VR. The things that it's fucking simulators, man. It was Elite Dangerous. Everyone I know that fucked around with the DK2, first thing they did was fire up Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
First thing they did was fire up Elite Dangerous.
And Elite Dangerous was the early sort of like mainstream games that wasn't VR that added VR in rather than being built for VR, which were all the early built for VR games were pretty shit.
They still are, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah.
They still really are, because we still haven't figured out VR. However, having a VR headset on to track your skull for driving, flying, kayaking, that kind of stuff, it works because you're in a seated position.
Yep.
The interaction with the world is the thing that you have in front of you, the steering wheel, the HOTAS, the whatever. I couldn't imagine Elite Dangerous on a control pad. That'd be terrible. Absolutely terrible. Even on a flat screen. So adding in the headset for head tracking, that makes the game. Like the simulators are VR to a degree.
Well, especially in Elite, if you're in combat, things flying overhead.
Yeah.
Mouse and keyboard's a nightmare, but VR you can just look up and
you track it with your own dome. Yeah. And then because you know where you are in 3D space, because it's physical space, you can be looking at it and pulling on your HOTAS to move in that direction. You don't need to, I need to get my mouse and press the button and do that. You don't need to do any of that because it's a natural movement.
Yeah. And because obviously if you had a HOTAS setup, you can't just switch between very quickly because you're going to sit with your view in one place unless you put it onto a hat switch on your HOTAS, and they're just clunky.
Yes.
I mean, what was the cause EVE Online? The people made EVE Online made a flight shooty game for VR, and one of its nifty features was if you looked at somebody like another ship, that was how you targeted them. Looking at them, was by basically looking at them. So if you could track them as they flew past you could target and lock on with like missiles and stuff. And that's how it worked. So that was a neat thing.
Never tried that one. Never tried that.
I can't remember what it was called. I'm not sure if it. I think it got actually released. But I can't remember what was it called. I mean, it's all disappeared. I think basically the EVE is basically abandoned after like a couple of years.
But EVE players are a different breed.
Well, yeah,
they're a different species, pretty much.
There's several groups of people in the world you don't mess with: honey badgers and EVE players. And honey badger playing EVE. Woof.
Stay the fuck away. I'm crazy, not stupid.
Yeah. It will take you down both economically and rip your balls off. Maybe in that, hopefully in that order. Yes, that just makes the game VR. It just makes the game Euro Truck is one of the best VR experiences out there.
It's better. Yeah, it is. It's better than most dedicated VR titles. It's not even. It's not even close. I've played a lot of the big VR games, and they're not very good. But you sit in Euro Truck, and there's just something about being able to look about in your cab.
Yeah.
Euro Truck's fun somehow without VR. You put that headset on though, and inside the cab feels completely different.
Yeah.
It isn't. It's just a projection of what you were playing on the flat screen.
It's. I mean, I'll be interested to. You say to me, people what don't drive. It'd be interesting to know how they sort of act differently, because I find myself when I'm playing Euro Truck in VR, I react. I basically, as soon as I put it on and go into, I switch straight into like my dry mode, and the little habits I have to driving, I just do.
Yes.
So the habit of check your mirror before you indicate. It's the same thing. Something you should do, but it's a habit you have hardwired into you when you're driving a car.
Yep.
Or any vehicle, and I find myself just do it automatically in Euro Truck.
Well,
I have to think about, because it's gone to my brain. It's gone to my brain. Yes, you are driving a vehicle. Yes, you are. So all you can apply all the subroutines you've got already said. You can just apply them to this, even though you know it's not real. You just automatically just do it.
Mm-hmm. I would say probably that Euro Truck feels more real than most VR games that I've played. Without question. And it's not so much that some of my lot don't drive, it's that they don't like driving.
Yeah, that's what I was interested to know.
But for some reason in VR, they're like, yeah, this is fun.
Well, to be honest, I don't particularly like driving, to be honest. Driving is very much a means to an end for me. I couldn't have one of these jobs. I've got a friend of mine who has one of these jobs where he's an engineer, and he's rang me up the other day. He drove 3 hours in one direction to go somewhere, and when he got there, he ended up was there for like sort of, I think, like an hour, and then drove 3 hours back. That would just be hell to me as a job. I couldn't sit there and drive for 3 hours straight. I would be so bored. When I just have to do an hour trip to pick up feed for the farm, that bores me. So I don't particularly like driving, but I love Euro Truck, and I think it is the fact that it's different, isn't it? It's something. It's different. It's just a little bit of you're doing something a bit unusual.
I mean,
and you got a trailer on. There's always fun when you got a trailer on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I must be wired differently from the rest of you, because I love driving. Not so much a car. I mean, I spent a lot of time on my motorcycle.
Well, my friend who does he loves driving. So he's fine with it. He will just drive for like 4 or 5. He could drive for like probably 10 hours straight and it wouldn't bother him. Yeah.
See, because to me that's downtime for me. No one can bother me because I'm on the road. It's just me. It's peace and quiet. Whereas if I'm in an office or on a gig or venue, whatever, there's always all these people around fighting for attention, wanting you to do things. Whereas if you know you've got to spend 3 hours to get to somewhere to do a thing, enjoy those 3 hours of peace and quiet.
I would think it's probably different on something like a motorbike versus a car. I would feel it's different. I think as a more connected experience on a motorbike, I would say. I've never ridden a motorbike. I've ridden a bicycle, never a motorbike. But this looks like a more, because you actually have to move with it. If you see what I mean, you have to sort of lean.
Sure, I don't really know if the leaning really does anything that much more to it. I mean, it's fucking colder. When it rains, it's miserable. So you definitely get the number experience.
Yeah.
Well, no, you definitely get the more comfortable experience. I mean, there are many a times I've been coming home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, freezing fog, and I see some bastard sat in his car, comfy in a lay-by, nice and warm, having a nap, and I'm like, I've got another few hours to go, and I'm like, you fucking bastards!
But I actually think the suffering is what probably makes it more enjoyable. Because I used to enjoy driving my. Again, I would hate driving long distance in it. But that's for a different reason. I used to enjoy driving my Defender, which had no creature comforts. Basically, the heater sort of worked.
Yeah.
And it had a radio, but there was nothing else. It was uncomfortable. It was solid suspension, so it was very uncomfortable. Bounced around. Driving that for a few hours you were agony when you got to the other end because it was not forgiving. But I much enjoy driving that than I have any modern car. But modern car, I can drive modern car I can drive my car for would like to, but I've driven in like 3.5 hours to get there and I feel fine. I think part the pain makes it good.
I think actually, so where you're coming from there is the bike feels more connected. I mean, modern bikes are almost as bad as a modern car. Heated grips, heated seats, ABS is standard and all that kind of fluff. Like on my bikes, you are definitely much more part of the machine. Because if I slam on my brakes too hard, I lock up, I come off, I die. There's a lot more involved in my bike than there is a modern bike. But then, yeah, I would imagine a modern car would be boring as fuck. Like you are sat there in a chair and it moves. It's warm. It's, you barely even have to have your brain switched on to drive a modern car because you barely feel it because you got the hardcore power steering, you got cruise control, ABS. You barely have to do a damn thing. Some people drive in automatic, so they just have to put the foot down.
Yeah. And a lot of cars now, they have adaptive cruise control, which is even more fancier. I mean, let's not talk about let's forget about like all the autopilot stuff that's coming. That's on only a very small percentage of cars, but there are plenty of new cars you can buy that come by default with adaptive cruise control, so you don't even have to worry about changing the speed of it. It'll do it for you. So, yeah. Like I say, driving a car, my car is comfortable. Driving it 3.5 hours, I would enjoy it, but I wouldn't be like, oh, that's gonna be a journey. I get to the other end, it's like, oh, I'm comfortable now. I'll just go upstairs. I'll just go to the hotel, whatever. I'd be bored up my skull, but I'd be comfortable.
I think it would be a case of what you're doing whilst you're on the road. I mean, because life for me is pretty hectic. Like, it shouldn't be, but I live in a small house with a wife, 2 kids, and a dog. And my phone is ringing constantly and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very nice thing to be out of the house for any period of time, even if that is freezing my bollocks off on a motorcycle as I blast down the M6. And it could be just a completely empty road, just go and then whatever. Versus, say, if you lived by yourself and your work life was the only real stress you had, like hardcore stress you had, then yeah, I don't imagine you'd probably have as much fun as me. But I would imagine any guy married with kids would probably understand where I'm coming from more. Because you don't get much time to disconnect when you have a house full of other people that you have to do things for. I mean, plus you have to think, well, as you say, when you're playing Euro Truck, you pop on a podcast, you pop on an audiobook, Yeah. When I'm at home, I don't get to do that.
No.
So that would be where driving would come in. I could go, hey, I could finally listen to that audiobook whilst I'm driving my car to wherever for the next 3 hours. And then I can listen to the rest of it on the way home. So it's life fluff changes the experience of solitary shite on the road.
Yeah.
But immersion.
No.
VR.
Immersion. Yeah.
I've said it a load of times where my friends all said they thought that sim VR stuff would be stupid and boring. They've actually found that it's probably sim VR is probably the best VR they've ever had.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I've played food sim VRs. I've played, sitting VR like skateboards, keep talking.
No one exploded. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of. That's fun. That's great. That's enjoyable. I've enjoyed, I enjoyed Half-Life Alyx. I enjoyed that. But I do feel that Sim is VR's natural home.
Yes.
It is where it feels most thing. If as things get better, they can do some. It's the feedback. That's the trouble. There's the lack of feedback from all your controllers. If they had a way of making that more economical, and the other thing is, it's got to be something that's so. Go back to my joke about the suit. It is a bit of a joke, although I can actually see someone building that. I bet something similar exists already. Someone's probably all developing something like that. it makes it doing something in VR. At the moment, I'm sat in my rig at the moment. I can literally load your truck, pick my head up, put my headset on, I'm in. Done.
Yep.
If I have controllers, put the headset on, put the two controls, I'm in, done. If you're going to like having some of all like haptic feedback gloves and suit or whatever, it's going to take you a few minutes to get set up. It's not a quick in and out, I'll have a quick blast type job anymore. It's now a commitment to having some fun.
Well, even just full body tracking. I mean, it's not that much of a hassle, but that's still weight clip, feet clips, put on your headset, grab your controllers, move to your play space, make sure the play space is clear, go. And then most of the time, you actually find yourself sitting down anyway. It's just more immersive because you have legs.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those hardcore people who already has, because there are people out there who have full body tracking and they might have 10-point tracking, so that means they have to put trackers on their feet, trackers on their waist. They've got the trackers for the hands, trackers on their elbows because the hands will be the control pads. Trackers your head, and then they'll put on a haptic vest, or they might put on some haptic gloves, and that's just like motors in a suit to just vibrate as people touch roughly where on the suit. That kind of stuff gets. I could imagine that's going to take a while. Like that's a special occasion, like going to a gig in VR or whatever.
Yeah. It's a bit like if your hobby was, say, horse riding.
Yeah.
You're only going to be getting yourself kitted up. You might do it every day, but you're going to probably, for like a proper setup, you're going to do it like once a week probably. Yeah. You might do it every day. You're super keen on it, but for a lot of people, I'll go out riding once a week, and that's when you get set. That's sort of like that sort of level of time and not so much commitment, but time to set aside to do stuff like that. That's I think a reason that VR is great for Sims, and that is space requirement.
Yeah,
you need no space really. As long as if you already got space to fit a steering wheel on your computer there, you're good. You're golden.
Yep.
If I was playing a normal VR game, I'd be seeing the guardian system all the time because I'd shift, I'd move, whatever, and lose track of where I was, and I'd do a dance. Euro Truck, never see it.
I mean, I don't even have the space to use the guardian system.
Yeah.
So I have to stand perfectly still in my play space, otherwise I will hit something. Because they say what the minimum play space size is like 1.5 meters.
Which is surprisingly big.
Yeah, I haven't got 1.5 meters of free space. Steam VR actively tells me when I set it up, your play space is too small. You have to confirm. There's like a safety box, like a tick box. You have to check it. Like, I confirm that you have told me that my play space is too small.
Yeah. Jimmy's just come and says Euro Truck is game of the year.
See, but that's what I'm saying. And I hate to throw you under the truck, Jimmy, as it were.
I've already been playing it in VR, so you're safe.
Yeah, see, I'm going to throw Jimmy under the truck. It was Jimmy that doesn't like driving.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, Divine is the one that doesn't like driving, but we've spent like 30 hours in Euro Truck over the last week. If you said to Divine, hey, yo, do you want to do that long distance drive? He'd probably say, get fucked, son. But for some reason in Euro Truck, we can just have a natter. And it's pretty neat. And I should actually note as well, as far as immersion goes, Euro Truck's got a built-in CB feature, hasn't it?
It has now, yes. It wasn't there originally.
So you can actually talk to people on the CB radio, and it actually sounds like it's coming through a CB radio once it gets to your headset.
Yeah.
It's not a crystal clear like Discord call. It actually sounds like it's coming through a radio, which I think is fucking neat. No, and you can tune in a radio as well, because it's got internet radio stations on.
Yes, yeah, it has. You can also, there's a folder in the Euro Truck Drive folder. You can just put stuff in, it'll just play from it.
Yep.
So that's how I used to listen to podcasts. I used to usually load them all into the folder as MP3, or the MP3 goes into the folder, and it just play through them.
Yep.
Automatically. So you can put your own music on there if you want. Yeah, it's all done. And I mean, there are people who do radio stations just for Euro Truck.
Truckers FM. My mate Jay is a DJ for him.
Yeah.
So when he's not driving his truck, he's DJing, and people put on, they call up, and they put in a request, and he spins up the track, and there's people in Euro Truck listening to that station, as if it was it is an actual radio station, albeit it's a shoutcast radio station. It's not radio, but people are tuning into his broadcast, his stream, and then when he finishes, Truckers FM doesn't just turn off. The next DJ comes in. The next DJ connects in. They play some stingers or whatever. The next DJ comes in, and their show goes, and then people call in, and that DJ has a different set of tracks. And it's neat. You can tune into the oh hey, Jay's going to be on at 10 o'clock. Well, I'm going to be driving across Europe. Boop. Or I don't like Jay, so I won't listen to Truckers FM this morning. You'll tune to a different station or whatever. It's really it really helps. Again, Sims, immersion, that's all it is. It's pure immersion, which is why it's just so crazy, because it's not a game, it's someone's job.
Jimmy's asked, thoughts on the upcoming livestock update. Once livestock is in it, that's all I'm doing.
We'll be doing the next Ram Nerds podcast.
Crossover farming simulator, I'm done.
So it'll be Euro Truck Cross Farming Simulator, the combo of the century, and then from that point on, Ram's audio quality will drop to the sound of the CB radio in Euro Truck 2 for all of the podcasts moving forwards.
yeah. Oh yeah, I said that. I was like, "Oh, Ram's sorted." Yes, I was.
We should probably say though, getting VR working in Euro Truck can be a bit of a bollock.
Yes,
bit of a bollock. Not hardcore, but it's not super straightforward.
No, it's when it first, Euro Truck didn't have VR when it first came, but it got added fairly quickly. They added it in very quickly, but it's always a beta. It still is technically a beta.
Yeah.
So it's not seamlessly integrated. It's not like Microsoft Flight Simulator, where literally you just hit a button, it'll switch to VR.
Mm-hmm.
And then hit the button again, you switch out of VR. It is like you have to, the way I set it up was, go into options, you have to change a couple of launch options and put a launch command, which is -Oculus for me to.
I think it's Open VR for anyone else.
Yeah, Oculus. You have to use. Yeah, Open VR covers pretty much everything else, but Oculus Gear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, then the game will launch, and it'll launch your normal computer monitor until you actually go in game, and then it'll go onto your VR headset. But if you then bring up the menu, the game is like pause in your VR headset. You have to take your headset off and actually then fiddle with stuff on the main screen.
You don't have to.
How have they fit? You don't have to. How do you?
No, you just hit F11. So you still have desktop mode enabled.
No, I've disabled that.
No, if you still have to interact with menus with your mouse.
I'm sure I disabled that.
No, look, that's what I'm saying to you, mate, because I don't have to. If I hit F11, I do, because then my headset will pause, and it will then put it up on my screen. If you hit F11, it'll push it all to your headset.
No, it's disabled. I've got it in front of me right now.
How can you see that it's disabled without being in game?
Because I've gone to the properties I've got set up and desktop mode is disabled.
No, that's theatre mode.
I thought that's what you're not talking about.
No. There's a mode in-game called desktop mode and VR mode. If you hit F11, your screen for your menus gets projected to your monitor.
Oh, cool. Okay.
If you have it in VR mode, then it will all you hit the menu button and it stays in your headset.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, that's not, because it's also quite a struggle to capture Euro Truck, because when you enable support to capture Euro Truck, it does the split of your Euro Truck window. So you got left eye, right eye, and obviously you don't want to stream left eye, right eye. You then have to crop it in. But yeah, you have to. If you have the thing that Ram said, where he has to take off his headset, hit F11, and then you'll go straight into just VR mode.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, it is still tacked in. You still have to, enable the Oculus. You have to open up the Oculus beta software, or you have to right-click properties, beta, pick the one that says Oculus and OpenVR, tack Oculus or tack OpenVR in the launch options. If you launch through in Oculus, we found, or I found at least, I don't know about everyone else, Saber, I don't think they had this issue, but for me, if with the pad I was using, if I didn't launch it through the Oculus app, because once you add the tack Oculus and launch the game, it gets added to your Oculus app. If I didn't launch it from the apps library, my control pad wouldn't work anymore. It still launches the Steam version of the game, but my control pad wouldn't work. If I launched it through Steam, my control pad was just like, yeah, no, you're going to have to use keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you had that issue with your steering wheel.
No, it's worked pretty. It's once I was in, it's seamless. Really, once I was in, I don't have any major issues. So it worked pretty well.
Oh, fair that.
So cool.
Yeah, it's nothing difficult. But if you want to play in desktop mode again, you then have to right click properties, take out that launch option, and then you go back to whatever. It's not as Ram says, it's not as seamless. Like you can't just be in desktop mode and then hit F11. With your headset on, kind of thing, like, because changing it into desktop mode doesn't really do. I don't think it does. I haven't really tried it, so that might have to be something that we natter about later. But
because I know a lot of other games with VR mode labeled usually gives you as a launch option when you just launch the game. Do you should launch as VR mode or non-VR mode?
Or you like I think in Flight Simulator there is just a button in the menu.
Yeah, if there is
VR, and then
you could. It's just I think in Flight Simulator, I think it's something like tab or scroll lock. Just push it and caps lock. I think it is. You push caps, it just switches between the two modes.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a little bit more in Euro Truck. I mean, how's Elite Dangerous? Is that just a launch option or?
Yeah, launch option.
All right. I'd like to see them make it a little easier to launch Euro Truck in VR.
I have a suspicion that there is something the way the engine is set which makes it. There must be a reason why they haven't, because it's not. It doesn't seem like a massive issue to do. Whether it's just so much on the back burner, they've literally got it working, like left it, and like, look, it works now. Let's not fiddle with it anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Because it works really well for something.
It does.
It works really. Yeah, it works flawlessly. Really.
The interface changes up, doesn't it? Like the menu layout and all that changes, and
yeah.
Or did it change for you? When you said you had to take your headset off?
No, all the stuff moves around in games. Like if you have like mirrors enabled, that all moves. So you have to switch them off. Your route advisor gets stubbed right in your face, which you have to switch that off.
But I mean, like your in-game menu, so like manage your garage, get a line.
Oh no, that was all done on a separate screen.
Okay, sure. So it's
literally just the driving that was in game.
So when I play, because I have mine actually set up in full VR mode, so it never projects onto my monitor, unless I hit F11 and tell it to. It actually changes the layout of the menus,
right?
So that you have two grids, and then the drive stick will be in the middle. So on your main menu, you've got go to like your bank and manage your business on the right hand side, and then like a quick bar at the bottom, and then drive is on the very left. Like you click the go out and drive in the real world with your truck on the very left. In the VR menu, it completely reshuffles all that, so you've got a chunk on the left, a chunk on the right, and the drive button's in the middle.
I think it depends which screen you're on, because I've certainly had my drive button in the middle of the screen. I could probably take a screenshot of it. I've said it. I think it might depend on which menu you're in, or section of the menu you're in.
I'm only talking about the main menu.
So yeah, so when I first load it up, you obviously you just click the continue, and then it goes to the next screen. It's got like my profile and stuff, and then drive is set slap bang in the center of the screen.
Yeah, that's the VR mode. That's different than when you play it in desktop mode.
No, because I was on desktop mode when I wasn't playing in VR. I can launch it right now and take a screenshot.
Mine's nothing like that. My layout changes.
Yeah, well, I've not used the VR menu, so I can't comment on that. But I know when it's on the desktop screen.
No, it's because you've got TAC Oculus set up.
Yeah, but no, it was because it was doing it on Wednesday. That's where it was on Wednesday when I wasn't playing with Oculus and I didn't have it enabled.
Well, then I have no idea what you've done, mate, 'cause it's not like that for me.
Uh,
I don't think it's like that for any of us.
well, I don't know.
But I would say,
yeah.
VR-wise, top 2. You can swap these around depending on which is more important. Social VR, simulators, and then all of the other stuff goes behind that.
Yeah, I would agree.
If you're not into social VR, simulators obviously goes on top.
Yeah.
If you're not into simulators, social VR. But the actual like VR games in VR, frankly, no offense to VR developers, they suck. They are just most of the time, flat screen games are more fun.
I think flat screen games work because it's gonna sound weird. You're playing a game when it's on flat screen. You're just interacting with a bit of software. Whereas VR is it's almost like Uncanny Valley. You're in this weird halfway situation where you're sort of being immersed, but then little things throw you out. Yeah. Like nothing has any physical presence.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's no weight to anything.
Yeah.
So if you pick up let's say if you're playing a fantasy VR game and you pick up a great sword as opposed to a short sword, you can swing them both just as quick.
Yeah, it doesn't feel any difference. And then, so a couple of games I have played, they try to add weight to the swords. Like your character's arms will flop back as they have to kind of bend. Like they're struggling with the weight.
Well, that's even worse.
You don't feel it. So Boneworks does it as well. So everything feels really ganky at that point because all of a sudden your arms just disconnect from your body. It doesn't feel right at all.
I was discussing with someone at work, and we came with this Christian, and he said, with VR, you almost have to role play with it a bit.
Yes.
To make it feel right. You have to roll. If you have a big sword, you have to swing it slower to role play with it.
Yes.
And so forth. And I said, you're absolutely right. That is what you have to do. And that's where that is a issue that they've not solved. And frankly, they can't solve. Because whilst we still have the way we interact with VR as it is now, where there's no sort of force feedback to stop you doing things, it will always be wrong.
Yeah,
it will never feel right. There's no way around it. Unfortunately, unless you get some sort of force feedback, and then people will probably again, you've still got people who actually want that feedback. So people want to say, oh, well, okay, I'll have my fancy suit that puts resistance to all my arms. So if I have a big sword, it slows me down. People won't want to play like that. Unless they want that, they'll have to want to have the deliberate experience. It won't be the standard experience for anybody. So
I think this is actually why more people spend time in VR chat than in VR games. Because you expect a degree of jank in a VR chat game versus an actual game. Because in a VR chat environment, you are surrounded by 30 other people just fucking about doing the same thing. So you get an elevated experience just through the atmosphere. Whereas in a kind of a standalone experience, that gets lost because it's just you in your head doing the thing. And as soon as you go, I'm in a game, you lose it. I'm not going to lie. When I was sat playing Euro Truck in front of my big screen TV, right? And I was sat in the dark because I was playing it at night. I was driving at night and all of a sudden a thunderclap happens. The screen flashes and there's a thunderclap. And I actually jumped out of my seat. Yeah. Because I was surprised it happened. I just zoned out and got fully immersed in this game. And it's very rare that happens for me at all in any game. But somehow it happened in Euro Truck. I don't have that happen in VR games that aren't simulator based. I just don't have it. They don't feel right.
No.
There's always, as you say, that kind of halfway state. You know you're in a game, but you're always conscious of your external environment, your IRL environment.
Yeah. But you're not conscious enough of it, so when you're playing a flat screen game, that can feel atmospheric. I mean, you take something like Green Hell.
Yeah.
That felt atmospheric, but you knew all the time you were playing a game.
Yeah.
And it's that I said to you, it's the VR equivalent of Uncanny Valley. That's
Yeah.
what I want to call it.
It's because you're expected to be more physical, I think. And
Yeah.
obviously then when you try to interact with an environment, well, your brain's like, well, that's not normal. You know, whereas, as you say, with a standard flat screen game, you know it's not normal. You can see around the periphery, you know, of whatever it is you're doing. You know, the peripheral vision is you know, oh, there's my desk and there's my thing, and you know, you don't feel your character walking through mud or all that. That's all things that stimulate your hearing and all that. VR, like I said, every time I pick up an object in VR, every single time, if a game tells me to pick up something and I see my character struggle, I'm like, this isn't immersing me.
It doesn't. Well, that again, you've ripped that by doing that. They've ripped you out of it.
Yes.
They've ripped you out because you are actually using your hand to interact with said object. Whereas when your character then doesn't work, it's a disconnect. Whereas on a mouse and keyboard, if you press the F key to pick something up, well, your interaction is pushing a button. You know it's an interaction. It's not an actual object. So the object can be made to be heavy, you know, slow you down or what have you. That's fine because you already got that disconnect. You've played into it. Whereas in VR, it's like, oh, I suppose I better pretend that it's heavy.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. There's the disconnect. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You feel a little bit of disappointment that it can look really good. It can look real.
Yeah.
You know, you do physically feel like you're swinging the object or picking up the thing, but as soon as there's supposed to be some kind of weight involved or something else, like when I get shot in VR, I don't find myself ducking for cover because I don't find the enemies fast enough to kill me.
No.
Or good enough to kill me. So I don't duck and roll around and all that kind of stuff. I just walk in like I'm the Terminator, and do people in. Just little bits like that.
Yeah. It's just you're constantly reminded that you're playing a game.
Yeah.
But not in a good way.
Yeah, that's
not in a way where that is the issue.
I think that's where simulators kind of, again, where they win out because it's a much more refined experience.
Well, your simulators, you're limited to what you can do.
Yes.
Your interactions are severely limited in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are flying a plane wherever you want or driving your truck on a road wherever you want, your actual interactions are very limited.
Yeah.
But limited in a way that makes sense.
Yes.
Whereas in a VR game, you've got limited, controls range. You've got very limited. Your limitations don't quite tally up with what you could do in the real version.
Mm-hmm.
And VR has a lot of trouble still with determining. So I talked about a game for a little while called Into the Radius. Really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, basically Stalker for VR.
It basically is.
I wish that game had multiplayer.
I really do wish as well. And that's got some that is a fairly they've gone down the route of being quite unforgiving. So like your magazines will actually you actually have separate magazines you have to track. Like most VR games, magazine just magically appears in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Of this one, you have to actually have belts and stuff. Trouble is, trying to put something the downside is, say you want to put something on your vest.
Yeah.
You're really reliant on the VR game knowing what you're trying to pick up off your vest.
Yes. And
you have to almost like think about it. Whereas in reality, you could just grab it. You'd have the tactile feedback to do it.
Yes.
And that is again a phenomenal disconnect because it makes the game sort of like it screws you out. Like you think you've picked your knife up, but because as you're going to go grab your knife off your arm sleeve, you click the button slightly too close to your chest. You picked up a grenade instead.
I've had that shite tons of times.
Yeah.
In many games, games.
And that comes down to the fact that your VR body doesn't quite map properly to your real world body.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how well they do it, it just will never map quite right. So you don't have that. It's your proprioception doesn't work for you, which your proprioception, which is your ability to sense. It what allows you to close your eyes and touch your nose. It allows you to sense things that you can't see.
Yeah,
and it's how you can pick something up off your belt without having to look at it.
Mm.
That fails you a lot in VR because you don't really know where your hand is.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, your hand in VR is never quite spot on. They're never quite always. They're close. They're never quite fully locked onto where your controller. Your controller is always slightly different. So you can never quite tally up. And it's just, it can become a nightmare putting stuff up off your jacket, or any sort of like hotspots like that can become a nightmare.
It's a problem mainly because they try to load you up with too many interactive inventory hotspots.
Yeah.
So like you might have 2 on your chest, 2 or 3 on your belt, you know, over the shoulders, where what they need to do is really kind of limit that to make it more interactive. Like, so in Boneworks, you've got, you know, oh, I can go from my hip, both hips, over shoulders, and I can't remember if there's like a chest thing as well. It's like, but as soon as you start adding in like multiple chest points, the belt behind you, it starts to get really messy, and you're like, what am I actually grabbing for?
Well, this is the issue that Icarus does have, in that, as much as I love the game, it has way too many hotspots. They've tried to basically recreate like a full-on military webbing. So
yeah,
you
like
have
a tactical vest, yeah.
Yeah, so you have like 2 chest hotspots. You then have a belt which has got like 4 pouches and then 1 large pouch that you can put multiple things in.
Yeah.
That you then want to try and grab out. You then got a backpack and you've got a map as well. So if you get it slightly wrong where you're grabbing over your shoulder, they both work by grabbing over your shoulder. If you get it slightly wrong, you'll pull the wrong one out.
Yeah.
That was frustrating. I mean, fortunately, you don't tend to have to. Most of the games I was involved in, you didn't actually have to. They're not like rapid fire Quake style engagements. They are sort of like taking a few pot shots, you know, taking a bit of cover, thinking about bits. So you have got you've got the time to do that sort of thing.
But let me guess, as soon as you go to pick up the thing, and you get the wrong one, it's over.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you sort of have to sort of like think and sort of like plan ahead. And the amount of times I used to pick up the wrong magazine because my hand was a fraction to the left of where I thought it was, and I picked the magazine I was already half empty.
That'd be my immersion completely broken at that point.
Yeah, and that is the downside. That is the downside with not just that, but a lot of it guys in general when they have that sort of style hotspot.
I think they need to limit, because the way I did it, the way I got around that in Boneworks, because I had other immersion breaking stuff happen in Boneworks, was that I would limit what things I would carry. So it's like I had holsters for like multiple pistols, or like an Uzi, a pistol, and like a shotgun or an assault rifle, and I was like, no, I'm gonna have a pistol on my say my left hand side, left hand kind of like a chest holster.
Yeah,
I know what, like, you know, where it's not quite on your hip, but it's not. So I would only have a pistol there, and it would only be a pistol there. I'd never have a pistol put on the right hand side. It would only ever be on my left hand side.
Yeah.
Right. I'd very rarely dual wield, because again that would break my immersion, because I'd have to make sure that I've got something else on the other side, or I could have an item on the other side. I'd only have a bigger gun or a melee weapon in a specific place, so then that way I wouldn't accidentally be grabbing for the wrong thing. Because it's also bad enough when you think you've got hold of an object, and all of a sudden you maybe picked up something else in the environment, or dropped the thing you thought that you were going for, and because there's no feedback, you're like, oh shit, where's it gone? You ever had that when you drop a mag and it just drops on the floor, and you're like, shit, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? And you know, you have that kind of VR panic, because you don't realize that instead of going for that thing, you pick up the magazine, you dropped it, you look at your hand, you're like, wait, shit. I've had that loads with games where I'm trying to pick up a gun, and I've got the gun, and I think I've holstered the gun. I think I'm at the hot spot, and I let go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, I've holstered the gun, and I keep running, and then I go for my gun again. Where's my gun gone?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably a quarter of a mile behind me, you know, or a mile and a half behind me, or whatever. So I then have to try and run back and not get killed. It's inventory management in VR, something that again needs to be worked on. It's immersion breaking.
It's the same issue. It's the there's
no
feedback.
Yeah.
You know, putting your gun on your hip in real life, you can feel it going into a holster.
Yeah.
there is no, until we have a way of like full body feedback that ties up. I mean, I did think about perhaps you could do something with like the controllers in when you like move your hand to different hotspots, it vibrates slightly differently.
Yes.
So over time, you would learn by the vibration where it is.
Which would be a problem though for some people, because much like myself, I've got nerve damage, so I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah. So no, it wouldn't help you.
There are audible cues in some games, but then even those don't always necessarily work out that well, especially like if you're in the middle of a firefight. And then you're actively trying to listen about whether or not you get that kind of like in Green Hell when you take stuff out your bag and you'd have the bag open and bag closed sound effect.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. You miss it. Sometimes you can miss it. Whereas again, you'll never miss that feeling of putting a gun in a holster. You know, you'll hear it as it hits the floor. Because some VR games, for some reason, don't play sounds when guns hit the floor. Or items hit the floor, or you might hear kind of what, and you're like, what the fuck is that? That's not how an item sounds when it hits the floor, you know.
You almost want like what some AVR games did, whereby the gun was like magically tied to your hip. So if you let go of it, it just went back there.
Yeah.
That is almost more what you want.
A bit of an immersion killer, but you kind of need it to manage your inventory, and you know, because there's no, as you say, no feedback.
The other way I could see him doing something, which again would involve some form of special clothing, would be if you had like NFC chips dotted over your suit, in your clothes, in different places, and the receiver and the thing. So as you put your hand on your chest, it could know where it was.
Yeah.
But again, it involves specialist clothing.
Yeah, because then you have to put that on before you jump into VR, and
VR there are unfortunately fundamental issues with VR games like that, and there is no easy solution to them.
No,
that anyone's come up with, and I don't think whilst all you've got to interact with VR, I know there's full body tracking, but that's
even that feels wobbly.
Yeah, but that's not your standard out of the box VR setup. Isn't full body tracking. You know what I mean? You don't, when you buy a VR headset and controllers, you get most are sold with 2 controllers and a headset.
Yeah, 3 point.
Not full body tracking. So your out of the box experience, until you can solve that, and there is no easy way to solve it, unfortunately.
No.
Well, I've thrown a couple of ideas out there, but they've both got problems, which as you've identified.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think they're going to be an issue. I don't think they're ever going to truly solve.
Sure.
Really. At least until we all start walking around like Ready Player One in fancy suits.
I think that's where sim is king, really, isn't it? That is why sim, at least on the immersion level, like you're like, oh wow, this game's really good. It shouldn't be. It is. You know why it is? I think we got it. Immersion.
Yeah.
Other games can immerse you, but you have to be in the right mindset, and it's not very hard to lose that immersion.
And you have to play along with them.
Yeah.
So
it's and to be fair to VR, I know I'm harsh. I always say that VR games shit, right? We are still in pretty much the Atari generation of VR. It doesn't matter what headset you've got, whether it be a really cheapy one or a really expensive one. If it does the same job as any other headset, head tracking, hand tracking, it's all the same. Doesn't matter what screens you got or whatever else. Games in VR we still don't know how to make them work.
Yeah.
We're still figuring out interfaces that we figured out in flat screen years ago. Or in some cases, we're trying to tack those interfaces into VR, and it just doesn't.
I think a lot of the issues is people making VR games are trying to
emulate emulate flat screen, perhaps.
No, what I was going to say is they are trying to. They're not looking at They're not taking a step back and looking at what VR, how it can interact and do, and say how do you make a game work with what it's capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to push it into what they want it to be able to do, i.e., hotspots and so forth.
Yeah.
VR games would work a lot better if say your guns, rather than having them on your holster over your shoulder or something, you like push down the right analog stick and you just select one from a quick wheel, and it just appears in your hand. Okay, yes, a bit of immersion breaking, but has solved your issues of accidentally dropping your gun because you have no feedback on it.
Yeah.
You've solved a raft of issues doing it like that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make it so that the magic magazine that appears in your hand when you go near
you can almost excuse it because, I mean, if you think about it, we have that kind of magnetic touch for picking up a lot of objects in VR. You drop a gun, you drop a magazine, you don't even have to bend down and pick it up. You can just kind of highlight it and it snaps to your hand.
Yeah.
So it's not like there aren't already other immersion breaking things in the thing, but it's more you'd be fixing the annoying immersion breaking things.
Work within the limitations of the technology rather than trying to push it to doing something that it can't really properly do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to have hotspots, fine, have hotspots, but limit them. Like as you say, have like 4 left, right hip over your shoulder.
Yeah,
and have them very generous.
Yes,
really generous. Like literally, you can just like wave your arm near your right hip and it'll pick it up.
Yeah, like ammo on chest, heavy ammo on back. You know.
Yeah.
So like behind the middle back, heavy. Chest, pistol, holster on left leg, heavier item over the shoulder or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's very deliberate where you're going. So if you go behind your back, you're going into a backpack for, say, something for an assault rifle or a bigger magazine or whatever. Because as it is now, there are too many options to fuck up, and VR can only make a rough guess as to what it is you're trying to go for.
Yeah. I mean, other games have like, I mean, you wouldn't try and shoehorn that into like a flat screen TV game. If you want to have like ultra realism, like go into your backpack and pick stuff up, what do? You have a grid menu.
Yes,
that's how we solve it. That's how we solve that issue. You create the feeling of a limited. I want to say, I'm going to put air quotes here. Realistic inventory. You create that sort of thing, but you're working within the ability of what's it able to do.
Yeah.
Because you can't backpack, and VR, as much as it's got potential, isn't able to do that either.
Sure.
So, right, have we had enough about VR now?
Yeah, man. Cool. Euro Truck Simulator, the virtual tennis of
yeah. So yeah, Jimmy says, "Yep, it's so good. It shouldn't be as good as what it is," which is what we said at the start. It shouldn't be it has no right to be as fun as it is. So basically the same sentiment as the start. And he's wonderfully wrong. It's always great when you're wrong about a game. I love it when you're wrong. Not when you personally wrong, but as a concept being wrong.
For sure. Because we're all like it. I mean, when you said it to me, and I tell this story all the time, when you first said to me about Euro Truck in 2014, I thought you were full of shit. And I remember I looked at it and I was like, that can't be fun. And then the thing that got me, it had a Linux binary. And at the time, I was on a Linux PC. I was like, well, I'm kind of limited for games. This is before Proton and all the nice kind of one-click installers for Windows games on Linux, like what a lot of people now have with Steam Deck, right? You had to have a Linux binary. This game had a Linux binary. I tried it. I was like, holy shit, this is actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah, and you were mouse and keyboard back then, weren't you?
Oh, God, yeah. And I manually parked my trucks back then. I don't at the moment because it doesn't feel right. But back then, yeah, I was mouse and keyboard, WASD, and it was fucking great. It was phenomenal. I've got a wheel. I got a wheel to play Euro Truck and all of my other like driving racing games, and I'm really glad I tried it in VR. The second I get that wheel set up, you're gonna have to cancel the podcast, mate. Because I might be somewhere in Europe, or I might be driving. I might even try American Truck Simulator, driving in them straight lines.
Yeah, I don't enjoy American Truck Simulator anywhere near as much as Euro Truck Simulator.
Mm-hmm. So, the second I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, America was divvied up with a ruler. I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that.
I don't like. I'm gonna say this is the fundamental between us and Europe and America. I don't like American trucks. They look like something from the 1950s.
Yeah, I get that. I
get that. Why have they got a big, massive bonnet out front?
Mm-hmm.
Why? You don't need it.
No, I get that.
Now, I actually do know why they have them out the front like that. It's because their long haul drivers are nowhere near like our long haul drivers. They are out for like weeks at a time, so they need the additional cab space.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they have to be, don't they? So for them, a regular job is like what me crossing Europe the other day.
Yeah. Well, some of their trucks have actually got like they're not just like we have. Basically, in Europe, you have a sleeper cab with a small bed you can sleep on, and maybe if you're lucky, a microwave.
Yeah.
Over there, they're like back like half their lorry is just like actually like a motorhome.
Yeah.
They have like table, chairs, and
they got a wee flat back there.
Yeah, they are absolutely. They are incredible. That's because they are out. Well, some go out for months.
Yeah.
So they live in their truck.
I was going to say it's just like working on the rigs, but then they are called big rigs, aren't they? So
that's one of the reasons why the engine's at the front to give them more space. So I do understand why, but I still think their trucks look ugly.
I agree.
So
we're used to suffering though, because we're British. So we're used to having like just a plank behind the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean they are. To be fair, the sleeper cabs do look surprisingly. I mean, yes, they are. I mean, they're big enough you can lay out on them. I've climbed into a few trucks to have a look at them, what they're like inside, and yeah, you can lay out on them. They are. I mean, they are. The new ones are fairly swish. As I said, they have have a microwave. You've got a TV built in. You have fridges built in. TV's got like loads of ports so you can rig up like it's got HDMI external ports so you can rig up like an Xbox or something to it or what have you. One guy who comes to us, he has a gaming PC in his.
Yeah, why not?
He's rigged up. Yeah, he's rigged that up. I said, I'm sure your people must love the battery power. The battery as you draw overnight with a little inverter going. They are surprisingly swish, but yeah, not even a shade of the American style trucks. So, right, well, we've managed to wrap it on for nearly over an hour and 40 minutes of Euro Truck Simulator.
Yeah.
One of the very few games that we both like.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And I would have never, if you'd have said that to me 20 years ago, that I would buy a steering wheel and recommend a VR headset just to drive around Europe, I'd say you are full of shit.
Yeah, but then you got into your 30s, and that's when all that sort of stuff happens to you.
Yeah, no, you are right. You are right. Dreaming of being out on the road. 3 years of not having a driver's license does that to you.
Yes. Yeah. One day, Skaz, you can get HGV. There you go. That's your next HGV driver, Skaz.
Yeah, that's it. That'll be my groove, mate. If I could afford it, if I could afford the training, again, you'd never see me.
No, mate. A lot of the haulage companies will train you for free now because they're desperate for drivers.
I'm there. See you later, man.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Jimmy says 11 out of 10. Yes.
Only 11? Pussy.
Well, thank you for watching us and join us on our Euro Truck Cast. So you can join us on our next podcast on the 8th of April at 21:30 GMT +1 because the hour goes on tonight. Yay. You can join Skaz and Zaber on Games Night on the 29th of March this Wednesday at roughly 8:30 GMT +1. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing, if anything, and we'll see. Well, I can guess what they're probably going to do. Maybe.
But you'll have to find, it won't be us at twitch.tv wherever, it will be twitch.tv/Skazius, SK4ZZI0US, because Ram's buggering off because he's got better things to do.
I'm putting it fencing. That's what I'm doing.
I knew it, mate. It'll be really just not that fun.
Well, look, it's like Euro Truck, fencing simulator 2023.
No, I was going to say, you're going to be sat there in VR just like, dun, dun.
Yeah, VR, yeah.
Mate, the emotions, I can't feel the weight of these posts, man.
Well, that is true, yeah. Oh, these posts are so bloody heavy, so bloody light. I wish they were just like reality.
Test the electric fence. Oh, it's not doing anything. My control pad's vibrating though, so it must be wired up and my screen's flashed red. That's
Yeah.
where someone
If you
walks
want,
up to you.
I mean, if you
bastard
want
with his cattle
Scars,
prod.
if you want the immersive experience, I could bring an electric fence energizer, tie like some metal wire around you.
That's what I was gonna say.
And just sit there with my hand, I could sit my finger like near the battery terminal, and if I see we get shot, I'll just quickly touch it.
I was gonna say I'd sit there with the cattle prod and just poke you with it. And then, I didn't even touch the fence. Just get down, Ram. Here's some immersion for you. It takes a whole team of people, but you got it now. Oh, look, it's raining. Quick, throw a bucket of water over him. It's not very subtle, but we can do it.
Yeah, there's me playing Cow Simulator 2024. Yeah.
You want someone to charge at you when the cow moves near you.
No, Cow Simulator, you are the cow.
Oh, there you
But
go.
it's not like Goat Simulator,
Mate,
Chris. You are just a cow.
Mate, ain't no one milking you.
Mate, I'm gonna be the bull. Come on. You see the mini game that you had to do for that one. Right. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. So see you guys later, and have fun.
Take it easy, guys.
So.